Dear Dale and Annetta, I taped some Merle Haggard records for me to listen to on the way home from Texas. On one of them is a song entitled In the Good Old Days When Times Were Bad. He grew up in a labor camp in California, and our life was a picnic compared to what he describes. But there are two lines in the song that depict my thoughts of the good old days so perfectly. No amount of money could buy from me the memories I have of then. No amount of money could pay me to go back and do it again. Annetta and I are so extremely lucky to have you, Dale, and Nadine, who are willing to exert so much effort to make a gathering special. Thanks for all the hard work and planning. Last night, as I drove in, I wish that I could write a letter right then while my mind was on the good old days. It seemed as though I'd been in a different world. It seemed as though it had taken those several days last week to shift down and get my mind zeroed in. Then it was perfect. I had all day to think about it in the atmosphere of Daddy's pickup. I wondered if Annetta would say no amount of money could buy from me the memories I have of them. Dale and I had such things as spraying mesquites with Daddy, working calves, riding horses, spending hours swimming in the tank, dogs, hunting skunks, with Cy and Zap and families, hunting rattlesnakes with Cy and Jap and families, Dale working for the highway, Brian working for Tom Moore, combining, the last years of the threshing machine. I had a bundle wagon. Dale had to be around doing something, driving the tractor. Brian drove horses, raking hay, hauling hay and cultivating for several years. I doubt if Dale was old enough at the time. Hunting rabbits, fishing, spending time with Cy and Japs, and with Don and Bert, killing hogs. We would scald them in a barrel, then pull and four-wheel trailer in the garage, and everybody stood around it and cut meat and made sausage. Helping Mother make lye soap, playing in the big barn at Japs, going up every Saturday after the mail ran to get Edith and Marza to read the funny papers to us, burning mesquites, hauling and chopping wood, shocking feed and grain, stacking feed, getting dip cans and barrels ready for Daddy, Cy and Jap to make their middle of the night runs, pumping up tires with the old hand pump, turning the forge blower in the old shop, fetching the turkeys every night from the Moore's place, killing rats at the big barn, etc. Seems like I spent hundreds of hours on horseback and with my dogs. At the time, I thought it was wonderful. Even when the mules ate the oilcloth top off the top of the car and we sneaked into town to get some more to recover it because the folks were embarrassed. I thought it was great fun. Do you remember when we had the old cars and used to get stuck coming and going to town all the time before they improved the roads? But I wonder what Annetta did with her time and how she thinks about those days. Dale introduced a whole new idea to me on this trip. It is a revelation to me. I had always followed the crowd in thinking of poor old Daddy, forced out of the pocket of his brothers, protected and fellowship by a wife who rebelled against the system. Blue, unimaginative, uncreative, not mechanical, and just a worker ant. How could I have known him so well and totally missed the whole point? He didn't just sit in the porch swing and brood as I thought he did. He did some of that, but also he thought and planned how to overcome the disadvantages of having nothing to work with and accomplish what I now suddenly realize to be amazing. and innovative feats. He was only one step away from an innovation that even now that bunch down there can't even comprehend. He killed the trees, cleared the trees. No one else thought the clearing necessary, especially me when I had to help do it, and had the shredder bought. His ground was one of the few places that could have been mowed with that shredder. I would have to be done before the broom weeds stalks got big and totally controlled the broom weeds, mesquites, and everything else. He could have tripled his pasture productivity, but the things he did accomplish are now astounding to me. He literally created an untried industry by taking an 85 horsepower 1937 Ford sedan that I turned upside down while dodging a skunk, and that he had jacked the roof up with house jacks and a two-wheel trailer, and created the system, capital, equipment necessary to jerk himself out of poverty. To my knowledge, he had zero encouragement or acknowledgement or praise. He figured out how to bid jobs at a profit. I couldn't begin to bid one of those jobs and sell people on the fact that it would work, and that even though it was more expensive than air spraying, it was a better way to go. I knew that he did these things, but the significance did not occur to me. I want to share with you something that made my mouth drop open when I thought of it on the way back yesterday. Daddy figured out how to roll a drum from the ground up onto a trailer, raise the drum up, haul it to the site, lay it down, fill the can, and pour the kerosene, tip the drum up, lower another one, empty it, then go back to the barrel area, start all over again. Think of this parallel. When I started in the soft water business, I had a 1957 Ford half-ton pickup. Delivering the tanks was no problem for the first few customers because I just laid a few tanks on the bed of the pickup, raised the tailgate, and ran the route. As the business grew, there was no way I could make enough trips to make the deliveries. Everybody else had larger trucks with tanks, racks, but I couldn't hardly afford to just keep that pickup running. So I left the tailgate down and laid 6 tanks on it, stood 2 rows of 6 tanks upright against the cab and tied them so they wouldn't fall, stood 3 tanks upright in the front of each fender and made a rack to keep them standing. I would deliver the 6 off the tailgate, set them off in the street, lay the first row of 6, pull the other row over the top on the tailgate, lift the ones on the street over and set them against the cab, stand up the other 6 and tie them, and just keep on trucking. I had a lot of 40 tank routes in time, and we used that system for about 3 years until we bought a 1.5 ton truck with racks and would carry 50 tanks. Over the years, I have talked business with a high percentage of the soft water operators in the West, and none of those have done it like that, or in my opinion would have even considered it. That's over 2 tons of tanks, and handling the tanks enough times to each trip to run several routes. Knowing that what I know now, if someone asked me what the chances are of running a route system in that manner for more than a week, we didn't have a backup pickup, I would say the chances of succeeding would be 0 minus a bunch. Now we have 1 ton trucks with racks that carry 30 tanks and make 2 trips, 1 heavy and 1 light, and 50 tank routes in just a small area of town is a day's work for a man. The routes in Phoenix at the start covered the whole town. I gave Daddy credit for teaching me to work hard, but it never occurred to me one time before this trip that he also taught me the basis of the system. It sort of startles me. As you observe our peers that are still in IBEX, it is easy to see that the big thing Mother and Daddy gave us was opportunity. To know that there was opportunity for something better for our lot in that circumstance, in my opinion, took more than foresight. I give Mother credit for almost all of that, but it seems to me that Mother was afforded some degree of credit for most of that. But it seems to me that along the way, they sold Daddy way short. I just mentioned opportunity. I laughed and laughed about this towards the end of yesterday. I had planned to shut down and sleep in El Paso, so I had a full cup of tobacco juice in one hand that I was looking forward to emptying when I stopped. When I found myself at El Paso Freeway, I discovered two things. The no-dose pills that Nadine had suggested to me had me bug-eyed as a bullfrog, and I was keyed up like a racehorse, and no way I was going to get to sleep. Also, I discovered if I could maintain a 50-plus speed, I could stay in the fast lane and get through town in a hurry. There were lots of cars and little margin for error. I had spent a 2 hands on the wheel, heads up day because I had discovered by following Dale that 55 miles per hour was 62 on the pickup speedometer. I decided to go 57 all day, so I was holding it just over 64 mark. At the speed, it was sort of like riding a Bronco. Everything would be great, and then there would be an uneven place in the road, and I would feel the steering neutralize. The pickup would take off like a shot in some instant undeterminable direction. There were 2 challenges: react in the right direction and don't overreact. I kept saying to myself, Brian, don't reenact the dodge the skunk trick. So there I was, weaving my way through El Paso, desperately trying to stay off of everybody and trying to keep the spilling my cup all over everything. I could see that by the way a few people honked at me, they thought I was either drunk or some tobacco chewing hayseed in an old pickup that couldn't drive very well, and they were afraid I was going to stack them up. Where the opportunity angle comes in is that I enjoyed playing out that role at 3 p.m. and later that night I joined Roberta and the kids at a party at a 20,000 plus square foot house that cost between $8 and $9 million to build. It is elegant. I had been thinking during the day that the opportunity to play out the later role sort of typifies the whole thing in one day's time. The trip was great, other than feeling between my shoulder blades like I'd been driving the tractor all day. I feel better than I thought I would after being up almost around the clock. I had cloud cover until past Pecos. Both legs are blistered on the top from the sun, rubbed raw on the back from the wires on the seat cushion. We are thrilled to have the pickup here. Dale, thanks. I feel like we made a few memories and revived a lot of others. We'll surely laugh a lot about Annetta and Mike's walk in the sun and a few other things. I want to write this letter to you before I have to force my mind back into the century tomorrow. I am so grateful for everything and everybody who has had a part in it. No amount of money could buy from me the memories I have of then. No amount of money could pay me to go back and do it again. I love you both, Brian. That is a letter that my father wrote to his brother and sister upon bringing the 1963 Ford, his father's truck, back to Arizona. I got to drive it in from the 80s to today. It's my only truck I have, only transportation I have, and I'm loving it. Put my bike in the back, and during college I got to drive it to ASU. Put my bike in the back because there's tremendous parking issues there at ASU. Never got a ticket this way. And I also want to say that this letter means so much to me because of how it describes the hard work ethic that his parents taught him that he passed on to us. And now I'd like to serenade you with a song, and we're going to dedicate this to our great friend Don with the last name starts with P. He is writing songs, and we're so proud of him. So this is for you, Don. It is the most requested fiddle song there is ever, and it's one of my favorites.